3, 2, 1, and we're back. And today's podcast is called The 5 Things to Know Before You Get Into Real Estate. Or let's be honest, the 5 things you should have learned when you got into real estate years ago that it's not too late for you to learn. And remember, all of our notes from all of our podcasts are always available for you if you're a subscriber to our free daily newsletter, which is called harrisrealestatedaily.com. And that's where all these notes will live for you. We create these, obviously, for all of you guys to use as reference material or our notes in our podcasts. But a lot of you are using our material for training agents that are in your office, or maybe you're in the business of, you're building a brokerage or a team and you're working with a lot of new agents. You're going to want these notes. So just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and subscribe. But remember, when you subscribe, dropping in your email address takes 3 seconds. But after that, you've got to pop over to your email and confirm you want the subscription. So make sure you do that if you've not done that yet. harrisrealestatedaily.com is our way of saying thank you to all of you for keeping this the number one listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. All right, Julie, let's just jump right in.
All right, point number 1, you are a 100% commission salesperson. Well, why does that matter? Because it means that if you are to succeed, it is 100% up to you. The quote is this: if it's meant to be, it's up to me. That should be your number one affirmation. So decide to succeed immediately by following a proven plan, and don't believe anybody who says you should expect to wait a year before your first check.
So I want to talk, there's 2 sides to this first point, and I'm going to talk to you and the listeners and you can help me work through this, okay? About the perspective of having a team or a brokerage, and essentially what that's like. When you listen to that point, it's like 100% commission salesperson, but a lot of agents will join real estate, get into real estate, and they'll say, I want to be a part of a team.
Sure.
But they don't understand the dynamics or the finances behind actually running a team. So those of you who have a team or a brokerage, I'm sure you're going to be celebrating me being as blunt as I'm about to be about the profitability of having buyer agents work for you. And here's the bottom line. It's pretty terrible. So when you're a buyer agent and you're thinking about joining a team or you're thinking about joining a brokerage, and most brokerages are basically glorified teams anymore where they provide leads and a whole bunch of extra services, the profit on a buyer side transaction for the person that's taking all the risk, the owner of the business, let's say, has gone from being okay to now fairly terrible. And why is that? Because agents require a lot of commission split, because it's very competitive to find a decent agent, but also the lead generation costs have skyrocketed. And in some markets, the buyer agent commissions have fallen. So before you go, Mr. New Agent or agent, thinking that, you're going to go work as part of a team and, you're not really being compassionate to the person that's taking all the risk, I want you to remember that they're the ones that are essentially putting it all on the line, and they have taken that risk with hopes that you're going to do enough transactions, they're going to make a profit off of you. But if you're working for most teams and you're doing fewer than 3 deals per month, really good chance that they're not making any money off your transactions, if not even losing money. We've done the math on this podcast before a number of times, showing the unfortunate realities about essentially what most brokerages are making off buyer side transactions. It's very depressing. Now, I want to flip the coin, and I want to speak to you if you're a team leader or if you're an agent thinking about adding staff. In this regards, buyer agents, do the math. You've got to realize that off every buyer side transaction, and again, this math should be self-evident, especially if you're buying leads, chances are you're not going to make any profit. And if your commission, I think Julie and I figured out, if your gross commission is less than 10 grand, maybe it was like 8 grand, and you're buying the lead, chances are you're losing between $300 and $500 per buyer side. So some of you have scaled up these very elegant, very well-oiled real estate practices where you have a bunch of buyer agents, but you're not making any actual profit from it. Matter of fact, you're probably losing money on the buyer side, subsidizing the buyer side transactions. In other words, you're moving on your balance sheet, you're moving money that should have been profit from primarily the listing side of the business over to support the buyer side of the business. And, no one's telling you the truth about the fact that it's not necessarily your fault that you're having to run the business that way. It's just the expense structure that's built around that business model of having a bunch of buyer agents, which started in the 90s, just doesn't really pan out. Now, if your commission is over 15 or 20 grand and you're not giving away all your money to paid lead generation, you're not giving away all your money to overpaying the agents and all the rest of it, then you are probably still making a profit, but your profit is probably less than 15% on those buyer side transactions. Bottom line is working in the real estate business is 100% commission. And a lot of you will, try to, I think, hedge your risk by going to work for a team, but you've got to understand the dynamics, the financial dynamics of working for a team, or basically being a lone practitioner. So what a lot of agents will do, especially if they're new, is they'll just automatically assume that they want to be part of a team. And then when they go and talk with the team leader, they're realizing the team leader is going to not pay them 50%, pay them less than 50%. And they're all like huffy puffy. Well, so-and-so brokerage said they'd pay me more than that.
Why should they make more than me?
Exactly. So it's because you guys don't understand the math. Now, hopefully you do.
Well, that's right. And what you're talking about really is the cost per transaction, which a lot of team leaders, they blend it a different way. They figure out different on buyer sides, seller sides. We handle a lot of this in coaching, of course, to help you get your numbers straight so you understand what you're spending per deal. And also, of course, it's in the real estate treasure map. So, yeah, there's a lot to pay attention to here. It's not just what it looks like on the surface.
So, Julie, if a new agent were to message you today on Instagram, or on Instagram at Tim and Julie Harris,
Yep.
and they were to ask you, I'm a new agent, should I join a team or should be a sole practitioner? I mean, the way we'd go about answering the question is there's not a one-size-fits-all answer.
No, that's true. We'd ask a lot of questions.
Right. What questions would we ask that agent?
I would want to know, first of all, is real estate going to be your sole source of income? I would ask if their partner or spouse is a contributing factor to their household income, so we know what they have to earn. I would ask, what does real estate have to do for you in terms of an income?
Well, you just said the same thing 3 times, right?
Well, but different flavors,
You'd
right?
want to know what their financial needs are. I'll tell you the number one question I would ask is I would ask if they've ever had a sales job before.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
I'd ask if they've ever had a 100% sales job before.
What are they doing now? What did they do before real estate?
Right. I'd ask what their lead generation plan is. I would maybe role play to see if they had any natural skill and ability, which some people do.
Sure.
Those are the types of, because if you do, you're going to make more money working for yourself and not joining a team. But if you don't, and your mindset is that you want someone to provide you leads and all this supportive team environment and structure and all the rest of it, you probably should join a team. Or frankly, if you're really emotionally disconnected with the realities of this business, being that you do have to essentially eat what you kill, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
And you think by going working for somebody else, you're going to avoid the lead generation. Eventually, you're going to have to learn those skills anyway, because you're going to get to a point where, let's assume you are a successful buyer agent working for somebody else, but you've never learned how to lead generate. You've never had to learn how to list properties, never really learned how to close transactions. And let's say you stay with that team for 3 to 5 years, and then you decide to leave, or maybe they just decide not to have a team anymore. A lot of them are doing that. You're going to be back where you started with not enough skill set to actually be independent. So you have to ultimately decide what version of yourself you want to essentially be manifesting for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of questions. That's why we have coaching to help you sort that out. So yes, point number 1, you are a 100% commission salesperson. Point number 2, you do, whether you're on a team or not, have to follow a schedule that includes 90% of your time doing lead generation activities. If you're on a team, it might be doing lead follow-up activities, and 10% on everything else. You must learn to generate business in the most efficient way possible with the least speculation and expenditure. Don't spend money you don't have on leads that aren't exclusively yours.
So let's drill down on that. If this is especially, well, actually it's true for everybody, but if you are right now a new agent, you have to spend probably 100% of your time on lead generation.
For sure.
If you're a seasoned agent and you don't have enough leads flowing into the next year, then you should be treating your business as if you were a new agent and doing 100% lead generation. Now, when you're doing lead generation, you have to ask yourself, especially if you're considering buying leads, which is very tempting to do, and buying leads is Facebook ads, buying leads is a buyer lead from Zillow. I had an interesting call with a top agent who's a Zillow Flex agent. I'm going to share with you guys some interesting things. So Zillow's got this deal called Flex, which maybe you do or don't know about. And Zillow will provide you essentially 300 plus leads per month. But here's what they want. You have to pay them a flat fee. I believe it was $10,000 a month. Plus they get 40% of essentially all the commissions that you earn. Again, do the math.
So the 10 grand is whether you do deals or not, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And then on the deals that you do, you owe them 40%.
Right. And
Okay.
I mean, when you do the math on all of that, and you start obviously quickly realizing how little profit there is on bought buyer leads. But what I'm trying to suggest to you is when you're deciding what you're going to do for lead generation, I would not, especially if you're starting out or restarting your business, I would not lean into buying leads. I would not lead into marketing and branding. I would not lead into anything passive. And I'll tell you why. It's going to take too long for you to get results, if you get results at all. That's just the bottom line. Most agents don't have the time or the financial war chest to wait out whether or not a whole bunch of videos that they make on YouTube ever starts generating leads. You guys get it? So you've got to, again, this is an individual answer, but you're going to have to decide, are you willing to forgo? So you have to be a passive lead generator, or you have to choose to be a proactive lead generator, earn your business, or a passive lead generator, buy your business. The earning your business takes skill. The earning your business takes you doing the work yourself. Earning your business takes having a schedule and having discipline. Earning your business takes doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. But I've got news for you. Even if you say no to all of those things, you say, I'm just going to buy my business, and I am going to buy leads, and I am going to do the rest of it, you are still eventually going to have to adapt to having a schedule. You are still going to eventually have to adapt to developing skill, because you can be the best lead buyer ever. You can generate more leads from all these, passive marketing, advertising things. But if you don't have the skill to pre-qualify that lead into an actual customer, let alone get them to want to work exclusively with you, you've just wasted all your money. So if you're trying to skip the part in real estate, which requires the learning part, which ultimately requires, a fair amount of rejection, if you think you're going to skip over that by magically making it so that the leads call you and you don't have to call them, that's just you skipping the learning part. And you're not going to skip it. You're just going to learn slower and more expensively.
And more painfully.
Yeah, exactly. So I hear these people talking all the time about, I did this Facebook campaign and I spent 20 grand over the last 6 months on Facebook, and these are the leads that I generated, and these are the numbers, and this is the whatever. Okay, well, what was your average commission on those deals? And do the math backwards. How much better off would you have been if you just learned to do something simple and frankly, like open houses or things like that, depending on your marketplace? You could have absolutely killed it in open houses. And when you look at the paid leads, especially the ones from Zillow and all the other sources, they are some of the worst leads right now you can buy because of the nature of the real estate market, because of the nature of interest rates, because of the nature of what's happening. So I would say back when Zillow started selling leads to agents, we had coaching clients that were buying them. This was back in 2007. You would probably realistically get, for every 3 leads from Zillow, you probably would have 1 really good lead.
Yeah, it was much better.
It was incredible. And I told all of our coaching, we had thousands of clients. We told them all to buy leads from Zillow. Hell yeah.
Sure.
Now, I bet you the ratio is probably 50 to 1.
Well, you might ask yourself, why does it take 300 leads a month, for you to get to those deals if you're, say, that flex agent? And the way I look at that too is if you're that flex agent spending 10 grand a month, you've got to spend 120,000 a year just to be part of that program. That's like 10 to 12 deals just to get to zero if you don't sell anything, but you still had to do the 10 to 12 deals. So you're starting in the hole.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically, by charging you $10,000 a month, they know that their lead quality isn't that great, and it's not necessarily...
Well, they wouldn't charge you that if...
Exactly, they wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
So they're trying to cover their costs, and they started charging that flat monthly fee when the real estate market adjusted, right? This is the worst year for real estate sales since, what was it, Julie, 1998?
1998, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where they decided to, throw on that added fee for the Zillow Flex agents. And you know what the Zillow Flex agents largely did? Okay, you know why? Because they had no options. Because if you're a Zillow Flex agent and you build a team around, and basically you are buying leads to feed all these buyer agents, and Zillow comes and taps on your shoulders and said, guess what? We want 40% of all the houses that you sell, the commission off all the houses you sell, off the leads that generated through us, and we want you to pay us $10,000 a month. What do you think the Zillow Flex agents did? They said yes.
Well, they're addicts.
Well,
for the leads.
They didn't have enough lead generation systems, so they never learned how to be proactive lead generators. So they're always going to be, to Julie's point, addicted to buying leads. So this goes back to the first point. When you're in your formidable career, years of real estate, and that could last a year or less, or maybe it lasts 10 years because you're always sort of in the getting ready to get started phase, wherever you are, you really have to define how you're going to basically source the leads for your business. And you've got to understand doing it the proactive way, it takes time, it takes skill, it takes you developing some emotional calluses, for sure. The other way takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of essentially risk, because you don't know whether that lead source is going to even be in business in 6 months, let alone, whether the leads. So here's why are so many of these leads you guys are buying, why are they so dubious in quality? It's because that same lead is being sold to a bunch of different agents. Because that same lead source, that prospective buyer, is filling out a bunch of different forms on a bunch of different websites and having a bunch of different agents call them. You guys understanding? So you need to define what your real estate lead generation system is going to be, and then make the investment and learn how to be a proactive lead generator. The ultimate incarnation is you as a proactive lead generator, generating the leads yourself. And then as you start to build your business and as you start to get really comfortable and efficient at proactively lead generating, then you enhance the proactive lead generating with the marketing and the advertising. Because then, for example, as you're, let's say chasing expireds in a particular city and you start to get really efficient at it, if you're also doing marketing and branding in that particular marketplace and you're calling the expireds and you call an expired and they happen to know you from your signs or from your postcards or whatever you've been doing on Facebook, that's going to make your job 1,000 times easier to take that listing. That's the secret sauce. That's the combination that's going to win you long term. But if you have to choose to do one, choose to do the thing that's going to put the most money in your pocket in the shortest period of time with the least amount of risk, and that's definitely being a proactive lead generator.
Well, and that's also the thing that gives you the highest level of skill most quickly, and that is sustainable. Doing it the other way, to me, is unsustainable and highly full of risk.
Well, it's because the rules change all the time, right?
Sure.
I mean, to what Julie's point is about, like, if you think about how frequently, if you're wanting to advertise on Instagram, or let's say, unfortunately, maybe you've spent a lot of money and time on TikTok, and Trump's already said that TikTok's going to go the way of,
that actually has a deadline on it. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, because I read an article about that this morning. I want to say it was 8 months ago, President Biden said that to TikTok, you'll remember this, that you've got 8 months to either, I think it was get another owner or something like that, do an owner transfer, or we're done with you. And I believe that that's coming up actually the day before Trump is inaugurated.
So the point of all of this is if you can easily spend millions of dollars on some sort of passive lead generation system, maybe you're trying to build your brand on YouTube, and all of a sudden the algorithm changes and all the videos you've created, all the effort you put into it's worth nothing. And that unfortunately happens all the damn time. Introduce AI, right? So all of a sudden AI starts doing all this really high level social media posting for every agent on planet Earth. And I'm talking videos, I'm talking maybe even short form videos, I'm talking all the things. You're going to see a proliferation of agents who never before have done a lot of social media branding type stuff they're going to be doing it like bonkers into 2025 and 2026 because it's going to be easy to do and fully automated. So if you have spent the last 3 or 4 years only trying to create a little niche for yourself on YouTube, the competition for those same views is about to skyrocket. And there's nothing that's going to prevent that from happening. And so all of your old content on YouTube about the city tours and all these other things that were maybe generating some decent buyer leads for you, well, guess what? The new AI algorithm is going to go into YouTube, I'm using as an example, and searching out the most viewed videos that are going to be a good complement to like an agent. And then they're going to see the top 50 videos that have gotten the most views over the last 5 years about New Albany, Ohio, let's say, where Julie and I used to sell real estate. And then the AI is then going to automatically create videos that are mirroring and matching, in essence, the video that had all the views. It's going to do a completely synthesized version of the video. And the agent who basically is essentially using that AI service is all of a sudden going to have multiple versions of that same video to compete with your videos that are getting you the buyers. Now, I hope you understand what I just said is not some sort of scientific dystopian version of marketing and advertising. It's the nature of how things are going to go.
It's happening right now while we do this podcast, I'm sure.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I'm hoping and praying that one day there's a way for AI to replace you and I doing the podcast.
I ask it every day. No,
I know.
Not yet.
But so realize the thing that won't get replaced ever is you having meaningful conversations with decision-making adults about buying or selling real estate. Everything else is fungible, easily replaced, easily copied, easily replicated. Marketing, advertising. How many of you have had really kick-ass direct mail postcard campaigns that maybe worked for a year or two, then all of a sudden there were 10 agents that were doing direct mail postcard campaigns, and your direct mail postcard campaign just dropped like, a rock. So if you're thinking about doing a direct mail postcard campaign, I'll give you a little suggestion. If there already are 2 or 3, let alone more agents in a particular geographic farm area doing postcards, don't do it. You are wasting your time. That is called overly saturated.
Yeah, you'll be an also ran.
And it does not matter how pretty your postcards are or how cool your logo is. The sellers are getting inundated with too much marketing and branding. You guys get it? But what they're not doing is having a lot of conversations with decision making. They're not talking to agents that are skilled, competent, and caring about the real estate markets. If you want to have an unfair advantage in the marketplace, I'll give you a little hack. Okay? Write down a list of all the things that you want to do the least in your real estate business. Write it down right now, specifically as pertains to lead generation. Write down a list of all the things you want to do the least in real estate. Write them down. What are those things? You don't want to do lead follow-up. You want to have an automated system that does it. You don't want to pre-qualify. You want some sort of automated, form that they're going to fill out. You don't want to actually have to have direct conversations with folks that maybe are expired or for sale by owners or things like that. So if you write down all the things that you want it to do the least in real estate, those are the things that are going to get you paid the fastest, aren't they?
It's the same list.
It is the same list. Because the secondary question to Julie's point is, now write down a list of all the things that you know will get you paid the fastest. And you see how the lists are the same? Hello, epiphany,
Strangely.
hopefully light bulb going off.
Which leads us to the third thing you have to be really clear on in real estate to not just survive but thrive. You've got to focus on listings from day one. And if you've been in business for a while and you haven't been a listing agent, make this your day one. Listings generate more business. Buyers do not. In fact, some buyers don't even generate their own business. There are sellers who have to sell, who will list, where there will be a commission as a result, but no buyer actually has to buy. And in order for you to succeed at this, of course, I made a note on the side here, you'll need a pre-listing package, a listing presentation. Now you need a buyer presentation and pre-qualifying scripts. So don't wing it and expect to be successful. Remember, the definition of close, i.e. on a contract, on an offer, on a listing contract, is the logical ending to a great presentation. So if you don't have great presentations, then you really shouldn't expect to be able to close successfully.
So let's talk about what Julie just said, really important point. Okay, so if you have to choose to only work with buyers or only work with sellers, a lot of you are going to say, I like to work with buyers because it's easier, it's more social, and you like looking at houses, all those things. It's more fun. I get it. But here's the deal. When you are trying to decide where you're going to be putting your time and your energy, and you have to choose between a buyer who never actually has to buy, a buyer can change their mind, a buyer can stay renting, a buyer, all the things, right? A buyer who is selling might choose not to buy something, they could decide to rent. So there's no such thing as a buyer that absolutely has to buy. A buyer always wants to buy, never has to buy. Now, if you think on the seller side of things, there's tons of examples of sellers that have to sell. Sellers that have to sell because they can't afford two homes at once because they're about to close on new construction. They're about to get relocated and they, obviously need to sell their house, cash it out so they can buy their next house. Maybe there's a financial reason. Maybe there's a legal reason.
Divorce decrees.
Exactly. Maybe there you go. Probate. Maybe someone passed away. Maybe it's, you guys, the list of reasons why sellers have to sell is long. And here's the bottom line. If you have to choose to do business with somebody, why would you choose to do business with somebody that just wants to, that could change their mind? Oh, I'm going to wait till after the holidays. I'm going to wait for interest rates to fall. I'm going to wait for pigs to fly. Okay? Those are a lot of the frustrations that you guys learn on the job when it comes to focusing primarily on buyers. Whereas working on listings means that you're going to be, once you learn how to, generating leads that are actually going to result in closed transactions. So if you had to choose between having 20 buyers, right, or having 5 listings, right? These are the normal buyers you work with, maybe some of the leads you bought, they're nice, friendly people. None of them have houses to sell. They're all first-time buyers, or 5 listings. And let's say the average commissions are the same. Which of you listening would choose the buyers? None. That's the answer.
But here's the other thing. When you have 5 really great active listings, you're going to have those 20 buyers whether you want them or not.
Well, I mean, her point
You'll get them anyway.
Her point is basically you're going to get buyer leads falling off trees when you have listings, because the buyers are obviously going to call about the listings. You're going to hold the listings open. You're going to generate more buyer leads and all the rest of it. But just think about what I just said. So when you're getting into the real estate business, or you're wanting to scale your business to the next level, you have to tune your tuning fork to be focusing on listings, because listings is the only place in real estate you truly get leverage. I know that is against the zeitgeist of all of you who've spent all this money and time effectively buying buyer leads. I promise you, the way forward, if you want to build real velocity in your business and personal life, is to focus all your best energies every day on being a listing agent, for sure. And that's our primary focus in Premier Coaching. Premier Coaching, obviously, we cover a lot of the passive lead generation, working with buyers and all the good stuff. But really, where the heart and the soul of Premier Coaching is, and really our whole our coaching enterprise, is definitely teaching you guys how to be listing agents. That listings are the very, they're the rocket fuel that gets you to Mars and safely back on planet Earth. Buyers don't do that. Okay. Hopefully we've made that very clear. So a lot of you are ready to join Premier Coaching. We've made it very easy for you. Just go to premiercoaching.com. Premiercoaching.com is our, it's our Premier Coaching program, obviously by name. But when you join now, you get Premier Coaching for the next 30 days for free. And that does include a daily semi-private coaching call with a Harris certified coach. So just go to premiercoaching.com. Or if you just would like us to text you the link, text the word Premier to 47372. You absolutely positively want to join Premier Coaching ASAP and get started right away. You've got a whole first level that's waiting for you. The Real Estate Treasure Map, which is our business plan. You have a lot of scripts, presentation materials, all the things. We have a 30-day massive action plan in there, which would be great. Now, it's actually 90-day massive action, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Which would be great for you to have this time of year, obviously.
We do have a 30-day survival plan, though.
Yeah, so if you're needing a survival plan, there it is. Julie made it for you. So just go to premiercoaching.com. Point number 4.
Point number 4, you have to make more contact more frequently than you think to a greater variety of people to get the consistent results that you desire. Remember that a contact is a conversation about real estate with a decision-making adult. So for example...
And a contact is conversations with voice to voice, belly to belly. A contact, if you really want to play this game at the highest level, is not a text. It is not an email. It's not sending them a video and then being giddy when you saw that they watched your video.
It's nothing that you can't tell me for sure that they saw or heard or watched. When you have voice-to-voice conversations, real contacts, whether that's face-to-face or over the phone, you got through, didn't you? So I use the example of, they're always talking about, I need to talk to my database more. Well, that's a good place to start because those are more comfortable conversations, but you have to have more of those conversations than you think always, more frequently, like every day. Do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level in order for you to get those consistent results. But it also has to be to a greater variety of people, not just within your sphere, but outside of your sphere, to people like what you just rattled off, the have to sell sellers, probate, for sale by owners, expired sellers. We know that when somebody has to sell, in other words, your ideal listings, 87% of them will list, 13% of them will be for sale by owners. You should be talking to them as well. But they are going to list with somebody. Somebody is going to be transactional. It might as well be you. But you do have to talk to them more frequently than you think. And that's always true, even amongst the best prospectors, to keep the fuel going.
Let's throw a bonus point in here. So
Sure.
A lot of you are confused about lead follow-up and what the definition of a lead is. People love to overly think about this. Here's the definition of a listing lead. Okay, and how long you follow up for. And this is a half a joke, but it's also the truth. When you have a listing lead and you've pre-qualified them, or even if you haven't pre-qualified them and they're a listing lead, your job is to follow up with them until one of two things happen. They list with you or somebody else, or they file a restraining order against you, right?
Exactly.
So you define how frequently you're going to call them. You define all the other things, but one of two things has to happen. Well, 3 things. They list with you or somebody else, or they file a restraining order against you.
Either way, you have an answer.
Right, but that's the bottom line. Tim, I don't want to seem too pushy. Why not? Tim, I don't want to follow up too frequently. Why not? If you think you're following up too frequently, it's making you uncomfortable. Why do you assume it's making them uncomfortable? And why don't you just say to them, listen, I realize I'm following up with you a lot. I just want to show you how aggressive I'm going to be when I have your house listed and there's a buyer that's interested in your house because, obviously if I'm following up with you this much to get the listing, you can imagine how great I'm going to be at following up with all the potential buyer leads I generate for your listing when I have it for sale, and definitely going to get it sold for you. And if that's an expired listing, or frankly, it's a for sale by owner, or really anybody, but really an expired or for sale by owner, and there's no such thing. 99% of you are literally physically you cannot be following up too frequently. You couldn't follow up too frequently or be too pushy if you wanted to be. So if you think you're being too pushy or following up too frequently, if you 10x what you're currently doing, then you might be coming close. Now, if you're spamming them with texts and emails and all this other digital stuff, that's going to probably annoy the hell out of them. So work on making phone calls. And you can text and text them things that are of use to them, do it legally, and then follow up with a phone call. But the phone call, belly to belly, communicating, that's the secret sauce. It's not about, oh my gosh, did you hear this greatest way to get more people to follow you on Instagram? Those days are over. The new days are the old days, which is learning how to have meaningful conversations with decision-making adults about buying or selling real estate. And if you don't know what to say or how to say it, that's the reason you should join Premier Coaching.
That's right. Well, the fact of the matter is, people who have to sell want to be interrupted. They want to be followed up with. Time after time, how many times did we hear in our career, we listed with you because you were either A, the only one who followed up, or B, because you followed up most consistently and you kept communicating with me. We've been talking since 90 days ago and you kept on calling.
I mean, if you think about it, how does a new agent kick the seasoned veteran, grizzled
That
veteran?
way.
That way. Lead follow-up,
All the time.
following up quickly, using a proven pre-listing package like the one we sell in Premier Coaching.
Yeah, not assuming they've got the business.
Right. Not showing up on time, following our 7-step listing process, being professional.
That's
So
right.
if you want to know how to, as our daughter would say, slay the existing aristocracy of agents in your marketplace, you just need to realize a lot of them have arrogantly lofted into their positions, and it's very easy to displace them, especially this time of year.
And especially the upper end, frankly.
Well, and here's another little thing. Their expired listings are literally your gold. They've left gold on the ground for you to walk behind them and pick it up, and that's where you have to see it. And if you go after that type of opportunity this time of year, when you roll into 2025 in the spring, and you have all kinds of momentum from all kinds of leads, and let's say half those leads are listing leads, imagine the number of people you're going to help and the amount of money you're going to make in 2025.
Yeah, best year ever, I'm sure. All right, last but not least is definitely a mindset point, and I have heard this on coaching calls. I have lots of proof that this is true. But number 5, your mindset has to be that you are, quote, in real estate. You are in real estate. Not that you're trying it out, dabbling, seeing how it goes, or waiting for the market to change so that you can magically become transactional. Agents who are 1 foot in, 1 foot out don't succeed because they've already let the failure in the door. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. You have to make this career. You have to decide that you're in it. You're not just trying it out.
Now, I do want to edit that because
Sure.
I partially agree with what you said, but some people are going to take it too literally.
Of course.
Okay, so again, had this conversation with 1 billion people over the years, and I'm going to tell you guys something that I don't know of anyone else that's going to say it to a broker, another coach, whatever. No one. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to go up to a coach. You're going to go up to a broker. They're going to say, you're going to ask them, listen, I've been a school teacher for all these years, and I've had health insurance, and I've got 3 kids, and my wife or my husband, they earn this amount of money, but I still have to earn this amount of money per month to make ends meet. I've always wanted to get into real estate. Every single person you talk to, but Julie, now you're going to say, burn the ships, jump in 2 feet. Otherwise, you're never going to succeed in real estate. You've got to completely quit your job and tell the world to go to hell, and you're going to become the world's most fit. That is the dumbest advice.
Yeah, and I didn't mean it for that crowd.
No, I realize that, but I'm wanting to speak to
clarify,
that.
sure.
Because I want that crowd to understand.
We have your back. We have a list of questions for you before you do that.
So if you are in a situation where other people are dependent on your income to eat, okay, to keep the electric on, to keep the house payment made, you have to keep on earning a consistent salary through your salary job and do real estate part-time. I am sorry, if you've already made a decision and a commitment to provide for other people, family members, you cannot just basically make them feel financially insecure because you've decided to follow your air quoting life's passion and get into real estate. Don't do it. You will most likely regret it. Because what's going to happen is you're going to essentially betray the trust that they had for you. Because, again, it's going to take longer and more work for you to be successful. So we've done lots of podcasts and training about how to essentially do both and be 100% committed to both. And you can be 100% committed to both. If you have 2 children, are you 100% committed to both of them? Yes, you are, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's not the greatest example, but it is an example. So if you were to say, for example, do real estate on the weekends. Maybe we've had clients that they had full-time jobs and they'd be in real estate Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You can do really well doing it that way, especially if your average sale price is really high. But before you decide to throw caution to wind and burn the ships and all these other things that people love to say, you have to look at things from a complete perspective. Now, if it's just you and your dog, Bob, okay, and you basically have nobody else, you can take all the risk you want. And if you're younger and you don't have any people dependent on you, take all the risk you want. It does not matter at that point. There's a lot of freedom in that. But as if you've gotten older and you have other responsibilities and obligations, you need to honor those other responsibilities and obligations. Even if you're super successful in real estate, in the intervening years or months at the very least, if you've not, when you weren't earning money, when you were like struggling to, you're figuring out your way because you're a new agent, those folks that you are now no longer taking care of in the same way, you don't think that they're going to build resentments about what you've done, forgetting the commitment you made to them? They might not verbalize it, but emotionally that's what they're feeling.
Well, that's a good way to get yourself out of real estate because you've just made them mad. You've made yourself more stressful. You've made it harder to succeed because all that stress looms over you.
Well, I mean, here's where it normally manifests.
Sure.
And you've seen this before because you've had coaching clients like this before.
Yep.
So let's just do a real brutal conversation, okay?
Fair enough.
This happens a lot with ladies. So ladies will basically get into real estate, and especially if they've got a lot of really developed centers of influence and past clients.
As is usually the way.
They'll eclipse sometimes their husband's incomes.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden things get very confusing.
Yes, that's right, because your roles have shifted. Usually this happens because it usually happens gradually and then all of a sudden. They haven't communicated with each other about what the plan is, what their financial goals are. We talked yesterday about having mutual goals and having the same North Star. And then it breaks down, and then he feels weird about it. She starts to develop an ego about it, and it becomes a big conflict. So yes, you do have to be careful about these things. You have to be transparent. You have to have good communication, the same goals. And no, that's why, when you asked me if somebody comes in thinking about coaching, what are some of the questions? I do want to know, what does coaching have to do for you and for your family? Because the answer is different for everyone. If it's just extra money to take your kids to Disneyland, that's great. Good for you. But if it's meant to be, or there's no food on the table, well, that's a different conversation. And coaching is not cookie cutter. There are other organizations that do believe that everybody just gets the same 40 points. That's not how we operate. It's up to you. That's why we have the treasure map, right? Because that's personal to you. Some of you are part-time, and that's great. We're very pro part-time agents.
But we're back to the point.
Yeah.
We've seen in coaching, we've picked up a lot of very successful ladies as coaching clients who are on the other side of having eclipsed their husband's incomes. And as a result, because they end up in divorce.
Yeah.
A lot of them do. And I had 3 conversations in the past month with couples that were headed in that direction.
Right.
And the reason is because they never actually had a conversation about shared goals.
No, they didn't have a plan.
And it can happen from the male's perspective too, but most often we see it from the lady's perspective. And so, look, you got to put all this into the hopper. And Julie's point about everybody's unique, everybody's different. Your situation is unique. Your situation is different. You've got to really think this through about really, like some of you have been in the real estate business, but you haven't been that successful. And why haven't you been that successful? It's probably just because when you started in real estate, you just maybe followed some bad advice and started buying leads. Or maybe you joined a team expecting the team to provide a bunch of leads for you and a bunch of training. It never actually happened. Or maybe you've been in the real estate business for a long time and you were successful really quick. And then all of a sudden, your emotional support structure, aka your family, stops supporting you because you kind of bend all the rules and you're no longer there for them anymore. Well, we can coach you around how to actually get that ship right, so that's no longer an issue as well. But, Julie and I are not just blanket trainers. We're coaches. And it's impossible for us just to give you a one-size-fits-all answer like what she just said. Everybody is unique. Everybody's situation is unique. Everybody's goals are unique. But guess what? The good news is the pathway to accomplish your goals, generally speaking, it's not that unique. There's some very honed in, proven paths to get to the top of whatever mountain you choose to climb.
Well, that was kind of the point of today's podcast, is there are some universal truths. If you're in real estate, it's a 100% sales commission job.
Yep.
If you're in real estate, you need to figure out your lead generation, or the rest of it doesn't matter. If you're in real estate, you're going to have to follow a schedule on some level, right? You're going to have to know your costs. You're going to have a plan. All of these things are true. You're going to need to lead with listings. Those are the universal truths. How you go about them is what we do in coaching.
That's right. I can't end the show any better than that. So thank you for keeping this number one listen to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. Remember, your next natural step is to join Premier Coaching. By the way, there always are a handful of you that are looking for the next level in coaching. And occasionally, Julie will take on a private client. If you're ready to move up to the next level, what we were just talking about really resonates with you, Julie, probably, yes or no?
Yes, 2 or 3 spots. Probably.
Okay, so she would consider taking on some new clients. And we made it very simple. It's just, excuse me, text me directly at 512-758-0206. And we'll have, and just when you text me, just give me a little brief bio on your situation, how long you've been in real estate and all that, and really what you're looking for in a coach. I would say probably I'll get 10 texts and probably 7 of them will be a better fit for Premier Coaching. The other 3 will talk with Julie, and she'll interview you and you'll interview her. So if you're really looking for the best of the best and you'd like to be considered to be in Julie's schedule, text me directly at 512-758-0206.
But don't wait until 2025. I want to give you a good runway so you know what you're doing in 2025, not figuring out what to do.
Have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you on the show tomorrow.